Aniyamsum pamsum tava charana pankeruha bhavam virinchis sanchinvan virachayati lokana vikalam vahatyenam shaurihi kathamapi sahasrena shirasam haras sankshudyenam bhajati bhasito dhulana vidhim. Haras sankshudyenam. And the we should always remember that the இது மாதிரி திய appear ஆறது வந்து மாதிரி வருது வந்து it is திய, the same as vidya. It is not dhya. I heard several of us said as haras sankshudhyainam nu சொன்னோம். So we shouldn't say dhyainam, it is dhyainam. So that is the second verse. So what is Adi Shankara saying in this verse is, in the first verse he spoke about Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shaktah Prabhavitum. So together only they operate, only with Shakti Shiva can operate. And then he says the three of them are worshipping who? Harihara Virinchadi Bhirapi Pranantum Stotum Va Kathamakrita Punya Prabhavati. So these three people are worshipping you. That is the first verse. Now in this verse he is saying, now the three main people who are responsible for creation, sustenance and destruction, which is the greatest function of the manifest world, which is creation, sustenance and destruction, they are doing it with your grace. So in the first verse he's saying that they worship you. Harihara Virinchadi Bhirapi Pranantum Stotum Va. So the one who is worshipped by Hari Hara Virinchi, such a mother goddess, what punyam should I have done to be able to worship you, O mother, who's being worshipped by the great luminaries, the greatest the greatest energies that are possible in existence in the manifest world is the power of creation, the power of sustenance and the power of destruction. Because everything in samsara is just these three. Everything gets created, everything is sustained for a period of time, and everything gets destroyed and then rejuvenated. It gets recreated, re-preserved and re-destroyed. And this cycle is going on and on, from the micro to the macro. From the smallest unit that we can perceive, be it a cell in our body, be it an atom, be it a boson, Higgs boson, whatever, even at that smallest level, this function is happening. Creation, it gets created. There's a certain energy, unit of energy that gets created. A particle gets created. Created in the sense, it comes into being. It manifests. It's sustained in that form for a period of time, and then it dissolves. Excuse me. So these three functions, Adi Shankara is saying, they are performing these three functions by your grace. By your grace, how? Just by the dust of your feet. Taniyamsum pamsum tava charana pankeruha bhavam. Your lotus feet, pankeruha, by taking that from your charana, Kamala charana, your tava pankeruha, tava charana pankeruha, taking from that lotus feet, what? Dust, pamsum. How much dust? Very little. A minute particle, taking from that, so the dust of your feet, a minute particle they take, and what do? Virinchi is Brahma. What does he do? Virinchi sanchinvan. By gathering that dust, he is creating lokana vikalam. The whole lokas, all the 14 lokas, one way to Satya Loka, the other way to Patala Loka, he is creating all of this with that dust. Then Vahatyenam Shaurihi Kathamapi Sahasrena Shirasam. Shaurihi is Vishnu. Vishnu, by means of this dust, he's somehow managing, he's preserving and he's sustaining. And the last one is Haras Sankshudhyenam Bhajati Bhasito Dhulana Vidhim. He uses this dust, who Shiva, Because at the end of the whole destruction, what remains is dust. So he gets the power to destroy by the dust of your feet, and he creates destruction, and he applies that dust on his body as vibhuti. The dust from your feet, he takes that, applies as vibhuti, and then he's able to carry out the function of destruction. So see how beautifully Adi Shankara is explaining this. So he's saying, first thing he's saying, he's glorifying the dust of mother's feet. See, the feet is usually for any elders. How are we taught? Even as a child, we are taught to bow down at the feet of the elders. Be it our parents, be it elders in the family, or respectable people in society. Either today in north of India, this is followed very nicely. They still follow. If a child or somebody comes and sees an elder, they'll immediately touch their feet. Southla, there is a lot of hesitation in doing that. We don't do that very comfortably. But in the north, you'll see even now, when they see an elderly person, they'll immediately go bend down and touch their feet. Because there's a lot of value that is there in doing that action. One is you're immediately instilling humility within you. See, naturally, when you bow down, the action of bowing down means I am being humble in front of you. You may, of course, the intentions may be different, but at least when you do the action, naturally there is a sense that will come. A little bit of that sense will come, and it will give you a reminder that I have to be a little humble. And touching the feet is because the feet is where a lot of energies reside for masters or generally elders and all, but specifically for spiritual masters and such people, Mahangalakala, their energies are existing, their energies accumulate in the feet. In fact, in Tattva Bodha, Adi Shankara says, one of the last shlokas, he mentions how for jnanis for whom karma does not stick, no karma stick on them, for them, bad karma, whatever they do but they do action. And naturally, by doing an action, some karma phala or some residue of that karma or the result of the karma will stay in their aura, in their being. They are not impacted by that because they have dissolved all their sanchita karma, and they are not creating agami karma. But just because they are acting in the prarabdha karma, whatever is the prarabdha, that is what they are acting out. But just because they're acting out in the world, some karma will accumulate in their in the being, in that form that they're in. So they may unknowingly step upon some creature and they've killed it. Unknowingly, they would have caused some harm somewhere. So it'll stay in somewhere in their form. It will not impact them. At the same time, the things that they do, the good things that they do for others, that will also be somewhere in their form. What happens, Adi Shankara says, what happens to that karma, the karma phala that they gather, is whenever somebody goes to them with an ill intent of causing this Mahan some harm, the bad, whatever that negative residue that they've gathered due to some karma, that negative energies will get passed on to this person. That is why when we go to such people, we have to be very careful in what intention we carry. When we are falling at the feet of Shankaracharya, Mahangal, or any of these acharyas that we go to, when we go and we touch their feet, we have to be careful what our intentions are. Depending on that intention, we will draw that energy from them. So whatever this negativities that would have gathered because of some karma that they've done unknowingly, that will get dissipated through such people. And if you go with the right intention, whatever good karma, the positives that they've gathered, that will go to people who go there with the right intention of submission. So feet is very important in that sense. Feet has a very important role to play in spiritual advancement. In fact, the story of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, when he gave Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, before he became Swami Vivekananda, Narendra, he gave Narendra the experience of samadhi for 3 days. Was he actually kicked with his leg on his chest? He kicked with his leg on his chest. And then he went into a state of samadhi for 3 days. So feet have such powers. And feet is also I think we discussed this in another session. Feet is also the symbol of what that individual stands for. Like we usually use Guru Paduka. Whenever we do, many of you who have gurus, you'll have a Guru Paduka in the house and you propitiate, you do Archana to Guru Paduka, you do mantra, whatever you do to the Guru Paduka. The Guru is not there, but the Paduka is there because the Paduka represents the Guru. Like how the individual's feet represent the individual because this is what they stand for. See, even it's an English word used as a pun, right? You can say they stand on their feet, but the feet also represents what they stand for, which means what their principles are, what their values are, what the objectives are in life, what they stand for is also represented by the feet. So Guru Paduka. Likewise, in Ramayana, we know this with this incident where Bharata carries Rama's Paduka and says, I will keep that on the throne and I'll rule the kingdom for 14 years till you're back. Right? So feet has such importance. Then comes the dust of the feet. Mahatmas along wherever they walk about, wherever they've laid their feet on, and we're talking about realized beings, jnanis, those who are turavis, those who are just living in the name of God, those whose minds are completely immersed in divine consciousness, wherever they keep their feet, the dust they touch becomes sacred. It becomes sacred. In fact, there is just occurred to me, there is a place called Muni Ki Reti in Rishikesh. Those who have come to Rishikesh, you would remember, we went to Shivananda Ashram. And Shivananda Ashrama is on a road, and the road is called Muni Ki Reti. Muni Ki Reti means the sand or sand of Muni. Munis. Munis means sages, rishis. So that whole place, it's a small place, that place is called Muni Ki Reti, which means many saints and sages have done tapasya and sadhana there, and they walked in that area. So which means that whole area has been charged by their presence, by the touch of their feet. So that's why the place is called Muni Ki Reti, the sand of the Munis, which means the sand dust particles of the Munis. Reti means dust or sand or whatever. Right? So like that, Devi's feet has this power, and you take this, and what do? Virinchi, Sanchinman Virachayati Lokana Vikalam. So Brahma is taking this sand and he's creating all the lokas, all the dimensions he's creating. From the Bhu to Satyaloka, Bhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satyam. That is the Saptaloka on the upward direction. Then in the downward direction, you have what? Atala, Sutala, Vitala, Rasatala, Talatala, Patala, Mahatala, Patala. There are 7 lokas in the negative direction, or the lower lokas. So these 14 lokas, Brahma is creating just by this dust, which means the dust has so much power. It shows that, right? He's creating all of these lokas. Vahatyenam Shaurihi Kathamapi Sahasrena Shirasam, which means Shaurihi is Vishnu. By the way, Virinchi, the word, just another thing that occurred, comes from the word Rachana. Rachana is to create. Rachana in Sanskritam means to create. Rachayati, Rachana. So from that comes Virinchi. So Brahma is the creator. Then Vahatyenam Shaurihi. Vahati Enam, he carries. Who carries? Shiva, Vishnu carries. How does he carry? With his Shirasam, on his head. How many heads does he have? Sahasrena Shirasam. 1,000 heads. Sahasrashirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sabhumim Vishwato Vritva Purusha Suktam. Sahasrashirsham Devam Vishwaksham Vishwashambhuvam Narayana Suktam. He is a Lord with 1,000 heads. What does it mean? That he is managing, he's preserving everything that is there in creation. 1,000 means he is operating through everything that is there. 1,000 indicates infinity, a huge number. 1,000 doesn't mean 1,000 essentially, right? It means a large number. It's which means when he's operating through everything. Vishnu means Vishwa Anu. Vishwam Anu is Vishnu. Vishnu is Vishwam Anu. Anu is what? The smallest particle. That particle which is present everywhere, Vishwam, in the Vishwam, is Vishnu. So he is, with 1,000 heads, he is preserving everything. He is governing everything. In one of the Upanishads, it said, how does this principle preserve or maintain or sustain this world? By being the Jivatma. By being the Jivatma, Brahman, Paramatma, by being the Jivatma, he governs everything. The best way, right? It's like putting a spy into each one of us. Paramatma has put a spy into each one of us. And he's created a spy who is self-governing, self-operating, intelligent spy. So that through that spy, he manages that entity. Right? So what he's saying, Kathamapi Sahasrena Shirasam, somehow, Kathamapi na, somehow he is managing the worlds that Brahma is creating, the 14 lokas Brahma is creating. Somehow he is managing, because it's so difficult to manage. Preservation is the most difficult activity. Creation takes some effort. Destruction takes very little effort. Preservation takes the most effort. Even in our lives, we know a small thing we need to keep, or a cup alambi clean how much effort it takes. So preservation takes the most effort, maintenance. So somehow he is managing this. How? By the grace of your feet, dust of your feet. Taniyam sum pamsum tava charana pankeruha bhavam. And then what does Shiva do? Rudra hara sankshudyainam. He's having destroyed the world. He takes this ashes, and with the grace of your dust of your feet, he takes that, destroys the world, converts them to ash, and applies them as vibhuti on him. And he enjoys doing that, right? It's a Rudra Tandavam. He dances, he enjoys, destroys everything, takes the vibhuti, just applies on him all over the body, and then dances. And what happens there? He is creating opportunity for life to be created again. Destruction doesn't mean that it is a bad thing. Destruction doesn't mean that ayyo poche. Destruction means that you are giving way for newer things to be created so that the cycle can continue. Right? Now we are having a problem in India, they say, right? Right now, the generation, India is the youngest country in the world, but give it 25 years, because we'll all be somehow medically maintained and sustained for long. And then there are not many next generation kids and all. In 25 years, we'll be a pretty old nation, like China is today, right? Because not many old people are dying. Right? So for nature to continue its cycle, the beauty of creation, sustenance, destruction is required. The cycle needs to keep going. But how does this happen? He says, and just visualize, it's a grand vision, right? This is a grand vision that Adi Shankara is offering us. These are mantras that you can sit upon and just meditate, just thinking that how this whole universe happens and it's created. If somebody can create a computer graphics around this, it'll look so beautiful. And how Brahma is creating these worlds. He's taking the dust to the feet of Devi. And Vishnu is somehow managing that like a juggler. And then Shiva is, you can think of it in the grand scale of things, which is celestial. Or you can also think of it as happening within your body all the time. Cells are dying, cells are born, cells live for a period of time. And this keeps going on and on. Taniyamsam pamsam tava charana pankeruha bhavam virinchi sanchinvan virachayati lokana vikalam. Vahatyenam shaurihi kathamapi sahasrena shirasam harasangshuddyenam bhajati bhasito dhulana vidhim. This is the second verse. Okay. Now we will chant the third verse and then look at the meaning. I'll pause this. So what Adi Shankara says in this chant, we didn't miss anybody. Ellarum chant pantalla. Avidyanam antastimira mihiradvipa nagari jadanam chaitanya stabaka makaranda sruti jhari daridranam chinta mani gunanika janma jaladhau nimagnanam damshtra muraripu varahasya bhavati. So Sita ji actually chanted it very nicely in a way that she broke it correctly with the meaning. So daridranam chinta mani gunanika janma jaladhau nimagnanam damshtra muraripu varahasya bhavati. So the reason of breaking it that way is to break by the meaning, not by the chandas. If by the chandas, if you go to be daridranam chinta mani gunanika janma jaladhau nimagnanam damshtra is how the chandas will appear. But she did it with the meaning. Janma jaladhau nimagnanam. So what it means here is avidyanam antah timira mihira dvipa nagari. So avidyanam for the, so he now Adi Shankara is identifying people as four different kinds of people. One is avidyanam, those who are ignorant. Antah timira, the inner darkness. Mihira dvipa nagari, she is the shining sun. Mihira, shining sun. Dvipa nagari, in an island city. Jadanam, for the dull-witted. Jadanam chaitanya stabaka makaranda sruti jhari. For the dull-witted, she is this fountain of intelligence, chaitanya. Daridranam chintamani gunanika, she is for the daridra, for the ones who are beaten by poverty. She is the wish-fulfilling mother, Chintamani Gunanika. And Janma Jaladhau Nimagnanam. So Janma Jaladhau here, the meaning is wrong. It should not be by 1,000. It should be Janma Jaladhau, those who are stuck in the material world. The fourth kind of people. Those who are stuck and immersed in the material world. Those people, she is Nimagnanam Damshtra Muraripu Varahasya Bhavati, which means she becomes the, like how the boar, Vishnu's avatara of Varaha avatara, with the tusk he brings out Mother Earth. In the same way, she helps you come out of this ocean of birth and death that you're stuck in. So the last one also, the meaning here is not updated correctly. I'll fix this one. Nimagnanam damshtra muraripu varahasya bhavati. So what is this nama or this shloka about? This shloka is, now Adi Shankara is trying to identify four different kinds of people. And not four different kinds of people, four different states of mind that we are in usually. Okay, there are in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, there is a mention. I think Shiva can correct me if I'm saying this wrong. There are four different kinds of minds, states of minds, that is usually are classified as four different. One is Mudha. So Mudha, Kshipta, Vikshipta, and Niruddha. So maybe Shiva's nodding, so maybe I'm right. So, so Mudha, Kshipta, Vikshipta, and Niruddha. The four kinds of minds, or the states of minds that we are usually in. Mudha is dull. And it can also represent an individual, right? But it's better for us to think of it as though not just an individual. It's better for us to think of we going through these different states of minds. Because if you think of it as an individual, it's easy to judge. I'm a mood you say that person is a mood. So what Bhagavan Adi Shankara is telling us, he is saying is avidyanam antastimira mihiradvipanagari. Is avidyanam, those who are those, and jadanam chaitanya stavaka makaranda shruti jari. So jadanam means all the dull-witted people, but it's not dull-witted people. We go through this dullness many times, right? We become dull. So just to explain, the first is mudha. Mudha is dull or dull-witted, same as jada. Kshipta is somebody whose mind, or someone when our minds are fragmented and dissipated. Kshipta. Vikshipta is it's oscillating. It's not fixed on one thing. Vikshipta is oscillating. It's better. So if you see, the grades are better. Mudha, compared to Mudha, Kshipta is better. Because Mudha is completely dull and you're not able to absorb anything. Kshipta, you're absorbing some things, but then you're fragmented. You're all over the place. Vikshipta is you're not fragmented, but you're oscillating. You have like two or three things and you keep moving. Oscillation is usually between two endpoints, right? So you oscillate. And the last one, Niruddha. Niruddha is somebody who's in control of this mind. There is one more. There's one more. Ekagrita. So it is Mudha, Kshipta, Vikshipta, Ekagrita, and Niruddha. 5. I'm sorry, there are 5. So Ekagrita is one-pointed. So from Mudha, you come to Kshipta, fragmented. From fragmented, you come to oscillating, Vikshipta. From Vikshipta, you come to Ekagrita, which is one-pointedness. And from one-pointedness, you come into Niruddha, which is you have control of the mind. Which means you know to tell the mind what to think, when to think, how much to think, and all that. So what Adi Shankara is saying is that there is a solution for all these 5 kinds of minds when you submit yourself to Mother. Right? So he goes, avidyanam antastimira mihira dvipa nagari. So for the avidyanam, for the ones who are for ones who are in ignorance, like in a dark room, or like closed your own eyes and you're saying the world is dark. So for such people, avidyanam antaha timira, there is darkness inside. Antaha timira, the darkness inside. She is mihira dvipa nagari. She is an island city of a bright sun. Right? She is that. So somebody. So if I mean, I'm reminded of this again. Shivaji Ganeshan's which movie is that? Saraswati Savadam. So he gets teased and beaten up by everybody because he's mute. He can't speak. He's a dumb fellow. And then he keeps and goes and cries to Saraswati Devi, and then she gives him a blessing. And then he starts, Agara mudala eduthallam abdin choli, he starts singing. Right? So he's saying that avidyanam antastimira mihira dvipa nagari. So for somebody who is in darkness, in a certain ignorance, a certain state of ignorance, she is this bright sun. Then avidyanam antastimira mihira dvipa nagari. Jadanam chaitanya stavaka makaranda shruti jari. Jadanam, for a jada, for somebody who is dull, she is this blossoming intellect. Chaitanya Stabaka Makaranda. It's like flowering. Shruti Jari, and Shruti Jari means a stream. She's a stream of intellect. It flows like, again, that example of this thing. Kalidas, another example, right? He suddenly doesn't know he's such a dull person. He's cutting off the branch on which he's sitting. He's cutting the branch on which he's sitting, and that too, not the other end. He's cutting the end which is joined to the tree, which means he's eventually going to fall, and he doesn't realize he's going to fall. So it's just an example to show how dull-witted he was. But Mother Kali's grace, this absolute torrential flow of intelligence and wisdom that comes completely from somewhere. Same with Ramanuja, right? The mathematician Ramanuja. He says, I have no idea. I have no idea about mathematics, nothing. But Devi comes and tells me these things, and I just write it down, whatever she tells me. So when Devi or the grace of Mother, we become receiving. This is where the humility comes. Tani amsum pamsum. So I fall at your feet, O Mother. And then in whatever state I am, I can be a Jada, I can be a person of avidya, I can be Janma Jaladhau, in completely immersed, Nimagnanam, immersed in the ocean of material desires. You are my refuge, O Mother. Okay? So second line is Jadanam Chaitanya Stabaka Makaranda Shruti Jari. Daridranam Chintamani Gunanika. Those who are poor. In the same movie, K.R. Vijaya is a very poor lady on the street. then the Pattat Yane, the royal elephant, is looking for the next heir because the king has died. And then the royal elephant is going around trying to figure out. So the tradition in their kingdom was the royal elephant will go and put the garland on somebody, and then they'll become the next heir, the ruling king or queen. So with Lakshmi's grace, this elephant comes and puts garland on K.R. Vijaya's neck. And she is a very, very poor, downtrodden lady. But there's an interesting song in that movie. Rani Maharani, Nagariga Rani, something like that. So Shivaji Ganeshan will sing looking at her. Ni enna periya Raniya, to say that you were like a poor beggar on the street and you suddenly became a Rani, and now you're talking rules and you're ruling over me. So I'll not let you rule over me. Saraswati Savadam, very interesting movie. But coming back to this is how Devi's grace is. It can transform you in a moment. Daridranam Chintamani Gunanika. She is the Chintamani Gunanika, which means Chintamani is the wish-fulfilling jewel. And she is that wish-fulfilling jewel that she can come as that into your life for Daridranam, for the Daridra. And then the last one is Janma Jaladho Nimagnanam, for the people who are immersed in material life. See, we often feel this, right? A lot of us are in corporate jobs, in corporate worlds, working this, that, and the other. We tend to use it as an excuse not to be able to spend a little time in isolation and contemplation and meditation, in doing puja and doing some japa, dhyana, yoga, whatever. We use it as an excuse, but then the thing is, life runs out. What remains is only an excuse. At the end of the day, the excuse will remain, and we will just be left high and dry. The things that we've invested in terms of work and livelihood and all of that, after a certain point in time, when our capabilities reduce, when we become less capable, and when our demand goes down, nobody would want us. I tell people in the office also. I mean, I've been telling this for many years. I tell people the same office that you're killing your weekends on, and you're losing your nights over, and you're working. And there are people who get physically, they get heart attack and cholesterol and this and that just because of work stress. If they tell them that at the end of the day, the same organization is not going to come, and maybe if you're hospitalized, they'll come and acho pavam, maybe they'll give you a few days leave and they'll give you some money or whatever. That's it. They'll look for the next resource who's going to be available for them to work. That's all they'll do. And we will be left in a situation not knowing what to think about. Where should our minds go? Where should our focus be? At that time, if you tell people that now you have to start thinking about God and puja and dhyana and yoga, it will not happen, because we have not trained our minds. We have trained our minds in so much to just do corporate work, just spend time with for livelihood, right? So that is also being janma jaladho nimagnanam, being completely immersed in material in material pursuits. In Bhagavad Gita also we saw, right? Yesterday in the some of the verses we saw, where he's saying, if somebody who's completely driven by rituals for material pursuits, don't even talk to him about self-realization. There's no point, because such a person is not even fit to, he doesn't even have the adhikaratvam for trying to understand what Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya, Shri Vidya, all of that, right? So, so it requires us. Now, how do you get this adhikaratvam? Adi Shankara is saying here that adhikaratvam can be obtained just by falling at Devi's feet and submitting yourself. Even if you are Janma Jaladhau Nimagnanam, even if you are immersed in this Janma Jaladhau, Jaladhau means the ocean of Jala, water ocean. It's shown like an ocean because it's so vast and so deep that it almost feels like there's no escape, right? And lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, you're stuck in that. And then if you fall at her feet, nimagnanam damshtra muraripu varahasya bhavati, in the form of Varaha, she will come to release you from that. Like how Varaha Murti, Varaha Avatara comes down, goes deep into the ocean, digs the Bhuloka, which is held there by the Asuras. He comes and picks it up and brings it onto the surface. In that way, she has the ability to do that. All we have to have is that faith and trust in her. That, Mother, I'm falling at your feet and I know you will save me. Trahimam pahimam. You say Trahimam is protect me, Pahimam is rescue me. So rescue is also important, because right now we need rescuing. We need rescuing. In fact, in many discourses, Nochur Venkatraman, he'll say tappichikongo abdimbare. This is the word he'll use. Tappichikongo means escape. Escape. Don't get stuck. Don't get caught up. Escape from this. Because very easy to get caught up. Escape. So we have to constantly tell ourselves, am I getting caught up? Am I getting caught up? Am I getting caught up? Janma jaladho nimagnanam. Then Mother will come and pick you up. But the problem is, the deeper you are, the longer it will take. She also has to swim and come all the way. Right? So the deeper you go. So we also take some effort, try not to go so deep, so that it becomes a little easy for her also to rescue. Because what will happen, even if she puts the effort, if we are in a situation where we're so immersed in this, like for example, there's something bothering you in your mind, right? Some stress that's coming. Just think, are you able to come out of it just by willing? You can't. And there's some stress, some things happen in the family or your life or your career or your job or your children or your husband or your wife or whatever, something's happened. Can you come out of that just by willing to say that, no, it's okay. Mother is there, she's taking care. I'll not worry. Can you sleep peacefully? You will not be able to, right? Why? Because we've not trained ourselves. We've not trained ourselves to come out of that clutch of worry and stress. So once it comes into our system, we think that's the right thing. We actually sometimes feel that if my wife is ill and I don't feel anything, then we feel guilty. And even if you don't feel guilty, your wife will make you feel guilty. கொஞ்சம் கூட கவலையே இல்லை என்ன பத்தி. நான் இப்படி பெட்ல படுத்துட்டு இருக்கேன், இங்க பாட்டுக்கு கதை பேசிட்டு இருக்கேன் அங்க போய். So the important thing is the ability to within. So of course, a lot of times we have to show that care also. Care is not something that I am caring for you. If you don't understand, that's not my problem, shouldn't be the attitude. Sometimes we have to express love and care also on the outside, many a times, right? But the important thing is, are we able to release ourselves from the stress, knowing that there is this power that is taking care? Nobody has to come and tell you. It must be developed within with so much faith that there will be no doubt about it. Then nimagnana damshtra muraripu varahasya bhavati. So in the way the muraripu is Vishnu, the one who killed Mura. That's why he's called Muraripu, the Asura Mura. So the way that Vishnu came and did that, she will do it. She will do it. All you need to do is hold on with faith. Yeah? So how does it go? Avidyanam antastimira mihira dvipa nagari jadanam chaitanya stabakamakaranda sruti jari daridranam chintamani gunanika janma jaladhau nimagnanam damshtra muraripu varahasya bhavati. Okay? This is how Adi Shankara says, Mother is so compassionate, and in whatever states of mind you are in, whether you are in the state of Mudha, Chipta, Vikshipta, Ekagrata or Niruddha, in whatever states of mind you are, if you surrender or if there is devotion in the heart and you tell, when you sit in front of her, whether you sit in front of her image or you think of her within you, tell that it's not that you're asking her, please help me. You tell her with faith, I know you are there and you are helping me. That is the big difference. Don't go like a beggar. Go as a rightful child. You know this difference, right? When your child comes and asks you, the child cannot go to the neighbor and ask with the same right. But when the child asks you, you don't mistake it, because you know the child has the right. The child will say, kitchen come now, I want you to sit. It will tell that with the right, because it knows that the mother will come when she calls. It's the same thing. When we call her, know that she is there, not doubting, not asking, not begging, knowing that. Then her manifestation will be felt. Beautiful. Today is Swami Shivananda's Mahasamadhi day. So we will chant 3 times Swami Shivananda's Gayatri, and then we'll close with this thing. Om Hrim Shivananda Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramhamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Om Hrim Shivananda Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramhamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Om Hrim Shivananda Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramhamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami sadashivayeti samarpayami jagadambikaye iti samarpayami sadgurunathayeti samarpayami. Hari Om Tat Sadgurubhyo Namah. Sriniyoda birthday niki. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Srini.
Shiva's birthday. Very good. Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Shiva.
We'll chant Trayambakam 3 times for Shiva then, huh? Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiv Bandhanan Mrityormukshiyamamrtat. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiv Bandhanan Mrityormukshiyamamrtat. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiv Bandhanan Mrityormukshiyamamrtat. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. Beautiful day. Nice.
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om Mama, எப்படி இருக்கு?
Om.